going down at this point. Americans are paying an average, though, of $3.19 per gallon. That's the highest since October of 2014, according to AAA. Georgia drivers are paying an average of $2.97 a gallon on average.
If you receive monthly Social Security payments, you stand to get a boost of almost $100 next year. This is due to an expected raise of about 6% in the cost of living adjustment. Now, the increase would be the biggest rise since 1982. Those receiving the maximum payout of nearly $4,000 each month can
raise the debt ceiling concerns just not Wall Street, but Main Street. A debt ceiling crisis could spark market panic. The alarm could melt retirement plans.
Politics and the debt ceiling is a political act. What's their credit card bills? It's their mortgage rates. It's auto loans. That's where we could see a dramatic spike in interest rates.
The government could suspend federal benefits if it can't borrow. The Treasury could struggle to make a $150 billion payment to a military retirement program due October 1st.
At that point, they have to start cutting. And they'll do that either by not paying off the debt, which, of course, has very important ramifications, and or cutting back on certain types of spending.
The Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, implored Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to help lift the debt ceiling. But the GOP won't assist this time, since Democrats are set to pile trillions onto the debt with their massive social spending plan.
Republicans are united in opposition to raising the debt ceiling. They have the ability and the responsibility to ensure that the federal government not default.
McConnell dared Democrats to tuck a debt ceiling increase into their special spending bill, which avoids filibuster. Democrats could then raise the debt ceiling on their own, but won't. Democrats demand assistance from the GOP.
Leader McConnell, as I said, is playing dangerous political games by not stepping up to the plate as he asked us to do, and we did when Trump was president.
Republicans suspended the debt ceiling 3 times during the Trump administration as the nation heaped on nearly $8 trillion in debt. Wall Street responds in real time when Congress fails to act. In 2008, the Dow sank a record 777 points in sync with the House, defeating a bailout plan during the financial crisis. The government is already short on borrowing authority. To make good on payments due now, the Treasury Department is rifling through the federal couch cushions for spare change. On Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
Accuses them of price fixing and failing to help farmers.
And the trade group representing the meat companies blames labor shortages for the rising prices. And if you bought chicken at a grocery store in the last decade, you could receive part of a $181 million settlement.
Residents in 24 states who bought fresh or frozen raw chicken or of different varieties and brands are eligible for some form of compensation. A number of companies are accused of restricting supply and raising chicken prices nationwide.
Now, Georgia is not one of the 24 states on the list, but perhaps you've moved from one of the states included in the last decade. Now, to see if you qualify, go to overchargeforchicken.com or call the number on your screen, 877-888-5428.
Make elder care, child care more affordable, or whether we should protect corporations and the wealthiest Americans, that's a debate we're happy to have.
Joel Griffith of Heritage Foundation tells us the plan will backfire.
If you're not making more than $400,000 per year, if you're working, chances are you're actually employed by a business or an employer that earns above that threshold. And what that means for you is going to be fewer job opportunities. And we know from study after study that when you raise taxes on investors and on businesses, those costs are passed on down the chain.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is recently quoted as saying the greatest threat to our economic recovery and our long-term economic prospects is not a marginally higher tax rate for large corporations or the top 1% of taxpayers. But Griffith feels it reverses policies that were working.
Following the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which lowered taxes for individuals and businesses in 2017, we saw 12,000 factories expand or come to the United States. And that started to reverse years of losses in the manufacturing sector.
I'm Frank McCaffrey reporting.
Serbia kicked off
Cases, Lindsay.
Good morning to you both, Ron and Portia. Now, typically how this works is that a scam artist would call up a person, particularly in this case an elderly person, posing as their grandchild, saying that they're in trouble. So then they actually have another partner in this, someone who poses as a lawyer and says that they need bail money for their grandchild. While in the past these scammers might have had gift cards or asked these grandparents to send money through the mail, now they're coming directly to the victims' houses, collecting cash from their driveways. Investigators say in the last 3 weeks across the state, scammers have gotten away with $350,000 from this con. And the best way you can protect yourself, just don't answer the calls from unknown numbers.
You happen to answer it and they want money, hang up, call your loved one first and find out, make sure they're okay.
Investigators are working to track
South Carolina's Attorney General calls the planned disasters and counterproductive. You will recall that the Biden mandate would require companies with 100 or more employees to be fully vaccinated or take weekly COVID tests. Now here is a look at the latest numbers in Georgia's fight against the coronavirus. The State Department of Health reported 174 new COVID-related deaths on Thursday. That's the highest number of deaths in a single day since February. Now, the state also reported more than 4,100 new COVID cases yesterday. That brings the total number of cases in Georgia to 1.1 million. Between Wednesday and Thursday, the virus has hospitalized 249 people.
Hospitals across Georgia are seeing a shortage of a device that can help treat seriously ill COVID patients. It's called an ECMO machine, and doctors say it's used in rare instances to take over a COVID patient's breathing to give the patient time to heal. Now, the problem is, though, out of the roughly 160 hospital members in the Georgia Hospital Association, only about 25 facilities have the device. Members killed in a suicide bombing in Afghanistan last month.
A Fox 5